space was never truly silent. Not for those who had learned to listen. General Ethan Cade stood at the observation deck of the USCS Resolute, the largest Earth-built flagship in orbit over Titan Station. Beyond the armored glass, the stars burned cold and bright, scattered across the void like shards of broken glass. And yet, tonight, even the stars seemed to hold their breath. On the tactical hollow before him shimmered the crimson crest of the Zalthirian Empire, a coiled, many-eyed serpent. The symbol pulsed with life, each beat a reminder of the alien presence on the other side of the secure channel. They were waiting for humanity's response. Cade's jaw tightened. Behind him, the bridge crew barely moved, their fear as palpable as the static in the air. Humanity had seen wars before, but not like this. Not against an empire spanning 100 worlds, not against a species that had never once been defeated in open conflict. The transmission had come an hour ago, projected across the Sol system. Earth must submit. Disband your fleets. Dismantle your weapons. Deliver your leaders to our tribunals. You have one cycle to comply or face annihilation. It wasn't a negotiation. It was an ultimatum. Admiral Marcus Hale broke the silence first, stepping up beside Cade, his voice grim. They think they've got us cornered. That will roll over like every other species they've brought into compliance. They don't know what they're asking for, Cade said quietly. His reflection stared back at him in the glass, hard eyes, weathered features, the look of a man who had seen too much war and knew what it would cost. Hale frowned. You think we can win this? Cade didn't answer right away. He watched the stars for a long moment, as if the answer might be written somewhere out there, hidden between the constellations. Finally, he said, winning isn't the question. The question is whether we're willing to do what it takes to survive. Before Hale could respond, the hollow shifted. The alien envoy had returned. The Zalthirian ambassador loomed, a towering, scaled creature, its black armor glinting like oil. 6 golden eyes blinked in unison as it spoke in a voice that rattled through the deck plating. Humanity has had its chance. Give us your answer, General of Earth. Every eye on the bridge turned to Cade. He felt the weight of billions of lives pressing down on him, every city, every child, every soldier waiting for someone to decide if there would be peace or fire. He stepped closer to the hollow. You want an answer? His voice was calm, but it carried like thunder. Then listen carefully. The alien tilted its head, curious. You look at us and you see another primitive species. Another conquest. You think you know war. But you've never fought us. You've never fought a species that was forged in it. The alien hissed softly, but Cade pressed on. On our world, war isn't an anomaly, it's the crucible that shaped us. For 10,000 years, we've slaughtered each other with everything from sharpened stone to nuclear fire. We've burned continents, drowned cities, turned deserts to glass, and we did it before we ever reached the stars. You threaten to annihilate us? We've done it to ourselves. The bridge was silent. Even Hale's face had gone pale. Cade's voice dropped lower, colder. You want war with mankind? Then understand what that means. We won't fight clean. We won't fight fair. We will burn every world you hold sacred, poison every sky, salt every ocean, because the one thing we do better than anyone in this galaxy is make sure our enemy never rises again. The envoy was still now, its 6 golden eyes unblinking. And when it's over, Cade said, leaning in, his face inches from the projection, when your empire is dust and your name is a curse, history won't remember that you demanded this war. It will remember that you begged for mercy, and we didn't give it. The channel went dead. For a moment, there was nothing but the hum of the engines and the distant thrum of the ship's reactor. Then Hale exhaled slowly. God help us, he murmured. You just told them what we are. Cade didn't take his eyes off the stars. No, he said softly. I just reminded them. Behind him, the alert klaxons began to wail. The first enemy fleet had jumped into the system. War had begun. The first battle of the war began on the edge of Saturn's shadow. The Zaltharian fleet emerged from the jump corridor like a storm front, massive cruisers and spear-shaped warships blotting out the distant stars. Their formation was flawless, precise, surgical. An empire that had never been defeated had no reason to fear disarray. General Ethan Cade stood on the Resolute's bridge as the tactical hollow lit up with red contacts. There were hundreds of them, more than enough to crush the meager human flotilla guarding Titan Station. "They're hailing again," comms reported. Cade shook his head. "Ignore them." The alien ultimatum had been clear. There was nothing more to say. Enemy weapons charging. The first barrage struck like a hammer. Plasma lances flared across the void, streaking past the Resolute's shields. One of the smaller escort ships caught a direct hit and bloomed into a fireball. The bridge shook. Panels sparked. Someone screamed. "Shields at 70%. Hale barked, gripping the edge of the tactical console. "If we stay on defense, we're done for." Cade's voice was steady. "Then we don't stay on defense." He turned to his gunnery chief. "Load Archangel warheads. Target their carriers." The crew hesitated. Everyone knew what Archangels meant: nuclear-tipped torpedoes, banned under every galactic treaty. Weapons humanity had sworn they would never use except in extinction-level scenarios. This was one of them. "Aye, General," the chief said at last. The Resolute heaved as the tubes fired. 6 streaks of light tore into the dark, arcing toward the enemy fleet. The Zaltharian ships tried to scatter, but the warheads split mid-flight, decoys and merged, confusing their point defenses. The first carrier vanished in a sun-bright detonation. The second was gutted, its broken hull spinning silently into the void. On the bridge, no one cheered. "Return fire," Cade said. The human fleet surged forward. Railguns spat tungsten slugs at near-relativistic speeds, shredding Zaltharian cruisers like paper. Drones swarmed, detonating point-blank against enemy shields. For every human ship that fell, 3 alien vessels were torn apart in kind. But the Zaltharian response was relentless. "Enemy reinforcements incoming," comms shouted. Another jump corridor opening. Cade watched as dozens more ships appeared on the hollow. The humans were outnumbered 5-1 now. Hale swore under his breath. "They're throwing everything at us." "Good," Cade said. Hale turned to him, incredulous. "Good?" Cade's face was carved from stone. "The more they commit here, the more of their fleet we destroy before they realize what's happening." The battle raged for hours. Titan's surface burned with falling debris. The moon's methane lakes were set alight, glowing like rivers of fire in the blackness of space. And still, the humans fought. When the last of the Archangel warheads detonated, the Zaltharian fleet finally began to withdraw. Not in panic, not yet, but with something new, something alien to them. "Caution." Cade stood on the observation deck again as the surviving enemy ships limped back toward the jump corridor. Wreckage drifted around them, alien hulls split open like broken bones, human frigates cracked and burning, frozen bodies spinning silently in the void. "They'll be back," Hale said quietly beside him. "Yes," Cade said. "And next time, they'll bring more." He could feel the crew watching him. The fear on their faces. The questions. "Sir," Hale said at last, "I need to know, what exactly is the plan? You said back there that we'd do whatever it takes to survive. That we'd burn every world they hold sacred." Cade didn't answer right away. He stared at the wreckage, at the way the stars seemed dimmer now. Then he said softly, "Do you know what happened the last time humanity faced extinction?" Hale frowned. "You mean the resource wars? The old nuclear exchange?" Cade shook his head. "Older. 200,000 years ago, there were at least 5 other hominin species on Earth. Neanderthals, Denisovans, cousins, competitors. And one by one, we wiped them out. We didn't just win. We erased them. We're the only ones left because we made sure of it." The words were quiet, but they struck like a gunshot. "That's the truth of mankind," Cade went on.
When cornered, we don't just fight. We become extinction events.
Hale swallowed hard. And if the Zaltharian Empire insists on cornering us, Cade said, turning from the viewport, then we will remind the galaxy why we survived when no one else did. Far across the void, the retreating Zaltharian ships carried back more than just casualties. They carried a message. That humanity was not like the others. The Zaltharian High Council had not convened in full for 1,000 cycles. Their chamber was carved from black crystal, a cathedral of power orbiting the Empire's throne world. Seated in a great circle were the lords of 100 conquered systems, each radiating the confidence of an empire that had never been beaten. But there was something in the room that day no one dared speak of aloud: fear. The surviving fleet admiral knelt before the council, armor scorched, one of his forearms missing from the shoulder. He bowed his horned head and spoke in a voice that trembled despite itself. They fought as no species has ever fought us. They did not retreat. They did not break. They burned half their own defense grid to take more of us with them.
And when we withdrew?
He hesitated.
When we withdrew, they followed.
A ripple of unease moved through the council chamber. The idea was unthinkable. No species had ever pursued the Zaltharian fleet after a withdrawal.
No species had ever dared. The admiral's eyes flicked to the central dais where the Emperor's avatar shimmered like living flame. Speak, the Emperor commanded. They destroyed the jump corridor as we transited.
It collapsed behind us. They have cut off Sol from our strike fleet still in system. The chamber erupted into shouting, 100 voices overlapping. The Empire had lost ships before, but never this many, never to a species barely a century into spaceflight.
At last, silence fell again. They are primitives, one counselor hissed.
Barely out of their cradle. Why do they resist so fiercely?
The admiral looked up.
Because their general told us why. He repeated Ethan Cade's words, every syllable of the warning, every promise of fire and extinction. When he finished, the chamber was silent again, not with outrage, but with something colder. They mean it, another counselor said at last. I have seen 1,000 rebellions, but I have never seen eyes like his. He does not bluff. He does not posture. They would destroy themselves just to take us with them, the admiral said.
Impossible, a warlord spat. No species would.
Would you like to see? A voice interrupted. It came not from the council chamber but from the holographic projection suddenly blooming in the center of the floor. General Ethan Cade stood there, his image transmitted through a hijack channel no one had authorized.
The Zaltharian guards reached for weapons until they realized it was only a recording. Cade's voice filled the chamber.
You wanted war, he said.
You have it.
But understand this, we will not fight as you do. We will not meet you ship for ship, soldier for soldier. We will strike where you do not expect, with weapons you cannot comprehend.
We will turn your supply lines into graveyards.
We will break your empire piece by piece until even your own vassals rise against you. The image shifted, showing Zaltharian outposts already in flames, sabotage teams striking deep in enemy space, human black ops raids detonating fuel depots and shattering communication arrays.
You still think we fear extinction?
Cade's voice was cold, merciless.
No. What we fear is submission. You have given us no choice. So we will show you what happens when the last apex predator in the galaxy is threatened. The transmission cut.
The council chamber was deathly still.
Across the Empire, reports of new attacks were already streaming in.
Small teams of human marines, inserted through captured jump gates, were systematically erasing every forward operating base the Empire had established in the Sol sector. The casualty reports were staggering. This will escalate, one of the counselors said quietly.
Yes, the Emperor said. That is what they want.
The council debated through 3 full rotations, but for the first time in 1,000 cycles, no one spoke of glorious conquest. They spoke of cost.
Of attrition.
Of the possibility, unthinkable as it was, that the Empire might one day lose.
At last, the Emperor spoke.
Send word to the human general, he said.
There will be no war. Not like this. We will speak of terms.
On Titan Station, weeks later, the stars were calm again. General Ethan Cade stood on the same observation deck where the war had begun. The damage to the station was still visible, scorched plating and twisted wreckage orbiting like ghosts. But for the first time since it started, there was no red on the tactical holo. Admiral Hale joined him, his face tired but lighter somehow. "Message just came through," Hale said. "They've agreed to a ceasefire. Withdrawal from Seoul.
Full reparations." Cade nodded, saying nothing.
"You should be happy," Hale said after a moment.
"You just forced an empire to kneel without conquering them."
Cade's gaze stayed fixed on the stars.
"We didn't win a war, Marcus. We just taught them what it costs to start one."
Hale frowned.
"And if they forget?"
Cade's eyes were hard. "Then we remind them again. As many times as it takes." Outside, a piece of enemy wreckage spun slowly past the window, a shattered Zeltherian cruiser, its hull marked with burns and impact scars.
A relic of the first battle. Humanity's warning to the galaxy.
And this time, Cade knew, the stars were listening.